Giancarlo, you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. We have 1,000 attendee on GoToWebinar, and we choose also to go to recast this video and this webinar also on social media. So we are on Icon Facebook page and on other several pages, because I mean, we have today a couple of real celebrities on technology and travel space. So we are very glad to start. It is a special event. It is a web streaming special event, and with me, do you see the presentation? Right. With me there is, as usual, I'm Mirko Lalli. I'm the founder and CEO of Data Appeal Company and Travel Appeal, and today I'm just a host. So I'm here just to present our guests and my co-host, and with me there is Giancarlo. It's I think the most famous hotelier in Italy, and even because it's an open question with all the global OTA, and I mean, it's everybody is talking about his conversation with Booking.com, for example. Giancarlo is also an analyst of PhoCusWright, and is with me and with Mauro Santinato, a co-founder of Icon. And there is also Giovanna. Giovanna Manzi is Best Western Italy CEO. It's, I think, one of the most influential women in tech and in travel, and it's also one of the most expert women in technology space. And I will leave to Giancarlo the presentation of our special guest of today.
Yes, hello. We have my great friend, I have to say, Philip Wolf, the founder and former CEO of PhoCusWright, and one, I have to say, the most known person and expert in travel technology in the world. This is the whole industry saying that. So we will be glad to hear what he thinks of all this incredible situation today. Then we have Cuthbert. So we make this special connection between Philip, which is in Florida right now, and Rod, which is in Australia. So the very different time. Early morning in Florida and late evening in Australia. We are in the middle. Rob Cuthbert was one of the founder of Viator, if I remember, and then also of Rome to Rio. And now it's what's the end? Where are you working now, Rod? Which is your what are you doing right now?
I'm working on a glass of Sicilian wine right now. It is
on a glass of wine.
11 o'clock in the evening here in Australia, so that's what I'm working on.
We cannot hear you very well, Rod.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
It's fine. The signal is fine. Online is fine.
The signal is fine. Okay.
Yeah, talking about wine, Giancarlo, I have a special photo for our guest.
Oh,
you want
remember that?
I do remember.
You want me to explain?
Yeah.
Yeah, Philip, do that.
So there I am with my wife Carol at the Hotel Plaza Lucchese in Firenze, Italy, where Giancarlo is general manager, and we stayed there for a week, maybe for 6-7 years, home away from home. Enrico is the bartender. This amazing building. They did this unbelievable renovation, and they pulled away the paint and the layers, and they found things that are 300-400 years old in the walls. And this was the opening night of the new bar, and we were the very first customers at the bar. And the reason I know is because Carol and I, Enrico, we unwrapped the bar stools. We took all the plastic and the wrapping off. So very good memories, for sure. And that's probably Aperol Spritzer or Rosé, I can't remember. But good memories. And this will be one of our first trips back when we can get on an airplane and fly overseas again, for sure.
I'm glad to hear that, because if you should see the hotel right now, it will make you really sad. Obviously, the 3 hotels that I manage, like the majority of hotels in Italy, I think 99% of the hotels are now closed, and the only one open are opening only for sanitary reason. And it's really sometimes when I'm there alone, because we are allowed to go there one by one for security reason and keep the hotels safe and the buildings safe. And I walk through the corridor. I think about Shining and Jack Nicholson. I probably dream of seeing the twins in the corridor behind me. But anyway, so the whole webinar today, it's obviously to talk with the 2 real experts, international experts. We have done quite a few webinars with the Italian community, because we were the first after China to be affected by this incredible situation. And then we decided to go international. And when the whole thing has expanded and it hit tourism all over the world, we were thinking of really having some guests abroad to talk about the situation. So it's going to be a conversation between all 5, and then we will take some. I think, Mirko, we're gonna take some questions from the audience, which are a lot of people.
And we have collected some questions yesterday during a special event, totally improvised, and we collected some questions for you guys. And I think, I mean, Giancarlo, if you want to start with the first question, then I think also Giovanna and I have, we have a couple for each.
All right. Let's say I'm gonna talk about EA later on, because most of the debate here in Italy, it's about what EA will do in the future. Let's start with the whole situation. Philip, I know that you also, in your early days before founding PhoCusWright, you were managing a travel agents. Have you never imagined that something like this will happen? That, I mean, all the tourism is at 0 all over the world. Something that is really incredible.
I love your expression. Everybody is starting at 0, so you can take a lot of risks when you take at 0. I never imagined it, but I try not to think about that too much. I think too many people are saying this is unbelievable, this is unprecedented, it's never happened, and we got to get on with it. So I was going to lead with a thought that a lot of people are talking about what I call the obvious, or the basics. For example, domestic travel will start before international travel. Individual travel will start before group travel. Leisure travel will rebound before business travel. The young people will start travel before the old people. But you know, and so that's fine. But I love Warren Buffett's. Many of you have heard this, that when the tide goes way out, you can see who was swimming naked. And I think people need to get on with it and stop asking how much is business going to be down and when is it going to come back. Those questions, I get asked that 20 times a day. And I would encourage everybody to start asking a different question: is how will my business be fundamentally different? Because there's so much accelerated disruption going on now. And I'm worried that even hoteliers or technology companies, if you're just waiting for the rebound and then assuming things will be pretty much like they were before, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Companies will go bankrupt. Companies will be acquired. The acceleration into online is unbelievable, and on and on and on. So I would think more about how should I pivot instead of when am I going to reopen. I mean, because the first one's obvious, but the second one might mean the difference between being successful and not.
Rod,
it's scary.
Same question to you. We're going to pivot. We cannot hear you.
The mic. Can you turn on the mic, Rod? Okay,
Right.
Fine.
Perfect. You're back.
I don't want to disagree with Philip, but I will take a different direction and say that if I was in a hotel or a travel agency or any sort of tourism business in Italy right now, clearly I'm feeling a little bit depressed and maybe a little bit scared about my business and my employees, etc. And I think one of the things that happens in those situations is you start to look for someone to blame and also someone to come up with solutions for how you're going to survive. I don't think the solutions will be external to your business. I think the solutions will be internal. It will be the many small things that you do, listening and analyzing what's happening in the world, making your own mind up about whether it's going to be old people or young people, or whether it's going to be a whole lot of people from Switzerland and Germany who are going to be your guests in the first few months. You have to make your own minds up and make some bets about those things. But what I wouldn't be doing is betting on OTAs or search engines or the government or other people to get you through. I think the solutions and your success in the future will be driven by the things that you do and not by the things that others do. If that makes sense, Giancarlo.
Right, I do think so. I have to say I do agree with Philip. From the very first moment, I think from the very first week, I was thinking that this whole thing was changing the whole way we are doing business. So that nothing will be the same after the coronavirus. That was the essence of my interview with PhoCusWright. When they interviewed me, I was kind of feeling like in a country under the bombs, right? Because I was alone in my home, isolated from my family for a few weeks, and that was the impression of calling someone which is already in a war, and the war was coming to the other country, like it's really happened. My feeling to have really to start the conversation is obviously it's a situation that will create also opportunity. Yes, many will not survive. We're going to talk about the airlines and then what the government are doing for that. But it's like, if you remember, I'm an hotelier, so when the internet started, we were not there. I mean, the hotels were not there. We had no idea what was going to happen. We were overwhelmed by the web, and obviously the OTA took our place. So it's also a giant opportunity to have a different way of tourism. This is my impression, and probably it will happen. I agree with you, and I agree with Philip that nobody still know how it's going to happen exactly. We will see in the next few months, but we will have to really look for opportunity even in this very, very difficult situation.
Giancarlo, I want to add one thing. Every day companies ask me, what percentage do you think should be the high scenario and the medium scenario and the low scenario of hotel occupancy, of airline bookings? And I get these charts and graphs from people, and I'm like, where do they get this data from? It's like, I have no idea what any of these things are going to be. And there's a lot of people like sending out charts and graphs, pretending they know what's going to happen. And I think that's ridiculous, because I got one the other day on airline growth, and I was speaking to Air France and Lufthansa and Emirates, and they had no idea. So I don't know where these statistics are coming from. So I caution those who are over forecasting with confidence, because it's rubbish. And I caution those readers and consumers of those graphs, because I know you're dying one for your next board presentation or your next planning cycle, but I wouldn't rely on them very much yet.
Giancarlo and Philip, I want to tackle you on this idea that everything's going to be different. I wonder if everything is going to be different. the way, and I know particularly right now, Italian hoteliers are not happy with the current distribution model, the way it works. You're very unhappy, particularly with Booking.com, and I completely understand that. I'm really sympathetic to you on that score. But these are very entrenched business models with very large companies, with huge cash reserves. Can the industry really invent a new means of finding customers and getting them to book? Or are we in fact stuck with the model that we had before the crisis? I think the difference will be that it'll be slow and the business will be down, we know that, but I wonder whether it will be very different to what it was before. I'm not saying that's what I think, but I just throw it open for discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
I leave the question to Giovanna as well, because she has an idea about that. Giovanna.
Let me turn on the mic. Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for inviting me to this wonderful event. Hi, Philip. Hi, Rod. Yes, I think the future will work, but not for all, only for someone. And probably Rod, he is right, because I think at least what I caught from his words is that probably the giant, probably the big guys, they will still survive, or probably they changing only the name. I'm wondering about, or I'm thinking about Amazon, for instance. Probably Booking will disappear. I don't know. Probably Ctrip will take the leadership, but I think mostly that Amazon will be the big guy that will take, together with Google, will take all the market. So it's not true that tomorrow we will have our small players that will win, with the flag, because the small usually don't win. Is it a reality?
Yeah, but there's something.
They will win.
Some things we can do to both these points. Look, the OTAs and Airbnb with its problems, they are masterful customer acquisition machines, and no small business will ever get that good at that. Sorry, that's just the way it is. So you have to do different things. But here's an appeal I send out to the travel industry around the world. Before the crisis, too many people said, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't have enough bandwidth. I hate that word bandwidth. I don't have enough bandwidth. So I beg everybody to take out that list of things you didn't have time to do because you didn't have enough bandwidth, and you have so much damn bandwidth now, you better get everything done. So hotelier can paint and re-wallpaper and do the grouting on the tile and change the menu and make sure when things open and you walk back in, it's different. I mentor a lot of young female CEOs. It's been an exciting part. And one gal that runs a small travel agency says, I'm finally doing the transition to my new IT platform. I never had time for that before. Another one said, oh, all the suppliers that never talked to me, now they're calling me and emailing me, and I'm going to open up a conversation with every one of them because I never had time before, or they never had time for me before. So start your bandwidth checklist and start doing these things, because it will improve your competitive positioning when things get a little bit better, instead of just sitting and waiting around.
Yeah, I do agree. We have a lot of things to do. We personally, I mean, I'm trying already. It's difficult to manage a big stuff from being sitting home, but every night we have a video chat with the staff, and we we already see what it may happen. It may happen. So people in the very first reopening will not go to the reception directly. They want to pass on and go straight to the room, and probably will have more room services than before, because people will not go down to have breakfast. I think many things will change in the way we'll do business, and we have to be ready now, because not everyone will be ready for that moment. Probably technology will be helping us in a different way in the future. About the distribution, I don't know. It's a feeling, but I don't know really what is going to happen. The only thing that we see now, it's the behavior of the big OTAs in this. I think there is a mic. Giovanna, try to close your mic, because we hear a lot of noise. Yes, it was you. Exactly. Much better. I was saying the behavior of the big OTAs has been unfair. That was we wanted to see. And there is a question that Giovanna, yesterday when we were talking about the question we may see today, Giovanna made a good one. I'm gonna steal it from you, Giovanna. The one that she's saying, who is the clients for Booking.com? Because obviously in this matter they have all gone towards their clients. So they wanted us to refund clients, even if we agreed with the clients to have a voucher to come next year. And that was really considered unfair for most of the hotel in the middle. And Giovanna was saying to me yesterday a word that I completely agree. I wasn't thinking like that before. Thank you, Giovanna, for showing this picture, and say, who is your clients? Your clients is the one that pay you. So we are paying Booking.com and the other OTA. We are paying them, and they didn't care for at all of our situation in that matter. So yes, they will still be there. Of course, they are big company. They can survive for months and months. But I do think we will try to have a possibility to have more power as a supplier than before, because of this situation. It's not the question of winning of losing a battle. It's a question that being all to zero, it's us, it's the airline, it's the cruises, it's them. They will be to zero for a few months. We need to start with a different way of looking at tourism. Yeah. That's my impression.
I would say, who's your customer has been, that's a question that's been asked for the beginning of mankind, and there's so many different ways to answer that. But who pays who is not the only answer, because, for example, you could have one customer book a room at your hotel using the merchant model, and another customer book a room at your hotel using the commission model, and who pays who is different. But I wouldn't over rely on that. Look, these global companies are marketplaces, and so they don't exist without supply, nor do they exist without demand, right? So I would take a different approach. You all need each other. Opening up these dialogues is good. You know, but I have a question for Giovanna at Best Western or any of the big hotel chains. Do you think the big hotel chains and medium hotel chains and independent hotels will get better at customer acquisition now, post-coronavirus? Doing it themselves?
Thank you for the question, Phil. I think first of all, the brands will be better in this very short term. Because people rely on brand much more than unknown hotels. So this is a matter of fact. This is coming from a lot of research that's saying that in the future, I will likely rely on brands because they give me the assurance of a bunch of things they are going to implement and to do. So first of all, this. Second, if I'm looking at China recovery, I get that the mid-scale market is going better than the luxury or five-star market. So basically, this is something that probably could happen also in Italy. And so our, for instance, Best Western, it is simply in the mid-scale market, probably will recover better than other brands that are on the upper upscale market. In terms of acquisition, I think we have done a great job in the past, but now I would like to put on the table this. I think caring is the new currency. And this is the reason why I think the OTA didn't behave in the right way, because they didn't care about even a half of the customers. Since I was much in line on what Giancarlo said before, for me, they lost completely the focus on the customer base. As they forgot half of the customer base, meaning the hotels, the supplier. So for me, this is important. And again, caring is the new currency. It's the new way in which we are establishing a conversation. We are linking, we are connecting with our customers today. They lost this occasion. And I think they will probably recover because they have a lot of money and they are big players. But for sure, if tomorrow another like will come, strongly, probably the supplier will lean on this instead of the other two big guys. So this is my perception.
Thank you, Giovanna.
Well, I'm going to jump in there.
Guys, just I sent a lot of questions in the internal chat. So if you can just take a look, there is 3, 4, 6 questions. Yeah, in the private chat. And I have also another question that came for a friend that I don't want to appear. And he asked, what do you think if the general weakness of the entire industry will benefit, especially talking about hotels, of course, will benefit the OTA and or the small independent hotel? So will recover fast the big guys or the smallest one that can save money and cash and reduce the expenditure very, very fast? What do you think? To everybody.
I think the economic impact is devastating and catastrophic, and I caution people that they're not saving enough cash, because when I hear people talk about, well, travel will come back, it's like, excuse me, but you can't travel without spending money, right? Leisure or corporate. And too many people are confusing the physical ability to travel. It's legal again, it's safe again, it's healthy again. They're confusing those issues with you can spend, you can afford to travel. So will businesses for the rest of 2020 authorize all these business trips because you can travel again? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. People going to go to industry events just because the event is there? No, it costs a lot of money. And that's what I said. So I caution everyone to not confuse the ability to travel again with being able to afford to travel again. Those are two different issues, and not to confuse them. So I don't know who's going to bounce back again, but Airbnb, for example, is amassing $1 billion US loss in the first half of 2020. That's a very big hole dig yourself out of. So if I were small and I watched my my pennies and my cents, I think in a way you could recover in a different kind of a way, better, faster than big companies right now.
Okay.
I'm going to look at the some of the questions that have come from our attendees, Mirko. And the first one asked whether the traditional form of summer vacation is likely to change, and how will that affect hotels and activities. And I've got to say, and this is perhaps you'll notice a theme from me here. I don't think things are going to change so much in the way that people travel. What's going to change is when they start traveling again and how many of them start to travel. We know, psychologists know, that there are people who are early adopters. They're the people who go out and buy the first iPhone. They're the people who get the 4K TV first on their block or in their apartment building, etc. They like to be first. And that's also the case with travel. There are people who are a little more adventurous. There are people who love Italy a little more than you know, maybe they should. They go every year. Maybe they should go to France some years or Spain, but they keep going back to Italy. That's a funny thing about travel to Italy. There's so many people who have a very deep and abiding love for travel to your country. So the people that you see first are going to be those early adopters who are prepared to take a little risk. And you really need them. You need them to travel and then to go back and tell their friends, it was fantastic. And, you know, I was in the middle of Florence and I was the only tourist that I could see. That's not really good, but we want them to go back and bring those stories back to their countrymen, to their friends and their relatives. Yeah. So we need to find a way to reach out to those early adopters. That's an important strategy, and that's probably something that has to happen at a government level. You know, I'm not sure whether the Italian government tourist office is fabulous or not. I have a suspicion. You tell me, Giovanna, are they good?
Unfortunately, Rod, we don't have only one tourist office. We have one because it's a regional matter. It's not a state matter. And this is our weakness for sure in terms of promotion, in terms of regulation. So this is a big point. It's difficult.
Yeah, this is, you know, here in Australia, we have a very strong Australian government tourist office, and they run television campaigns and they have a website and they do lots of wonderful promotions globally for the whole of Australia. This is something you can work on now. You can convince your government in the next 6 weeks. We need to pull together a plan. Good luck.
Speaking of promotion, there's a question here that I wanted to answer. To Philip, I'm observing that many travel agencies are cutting their marketing budget. Is this why? I believe they should continue to advertise. What do you think? I'm telling every company I'm working with to cut marketing spend now until further notice. So I have to respectfully disagree with this. I learned this lesson the hard way 19 years ago when I had hair and I was running PhoCusWright after 9/11. I had this brilliant idea to keep spending on marketing. People need to hear from you. They need to buy research and insight, and all that cash I just threw into the waste bin. I wish I had saved it. So it's a good question. The other part of my answer to that question is revisit that every day, not every month, not every week. Remember, a month is now a week is now a day, and a day is now an hour, right? And the other way around is what I meant to say. So I wouldn't spend any marketing money now. I do think that's wise. Cash preservation is the most important thing now, but revisit that decision every day. And I know Giancarlo said he has a a video call with his entire staff every day. Most companies are doing this. Be transparent. Keep connected with your entire team. One company I work with says, no, I don't want to do a video call until there's more clarity. And I don't think that's a good idea. People need to hear, see your faces. Another person says, I hate video. No, but they need to see your eyes open and closed, and when you smile, when you don't. And staying interactive will help you keep your pulse, will keep you connected. And you have to revisit these decisions daily, right? And you need to be in a daily mode. That's a thing that's changed.
Oh, I see we have Maria Elena Rossi.
We have a special comment. Yeah,
the Italian Tourist Board. I was yesterday in a webinar with Maria Elena. Yes, what we are asking exactly, as Giovanna said, we have the very difficult situation in Italy because for a law that I think most in tourism now hate that law, our decision in tourism is divided into the 20 different regions. So it's difficult, but then we have Hanit, which in the past few years had a few problems of reorganization. It might be the moment where this whole situation it's gonna put back as a one name, one country like Italy. I have a question which comes to mind to me many times, and I have discussed it with many persons in the industry, which is when we are going to restart. Let's assume in September things are better and we restart, and people slowly will start to be back traveling. What do you think? They will choose an hotel because there's more safety? Probably big hotels and big company will do a lot. Safety is the new words that is gonna be important. So have all the schedule, cleaning and everything that a big hotel can have, or they can choose an apartment because that means still isolation in some way from the other people. That's what we see now. It's that many Airbnb places are thinking to stop Airbnb and be back to the old ways of renting the apartments.
I mean, as you saw, the UK just closed Airbnb until further notice. That debate's been going on. What's safer, a larger hotel with public spaces or an isolated property? I think the hotels have a huge opportunity here to certify cleanliness, to leverage your brand.
Yes.
So that if you have a choice, I think independent apartments and flats and rooms, it will be very difficult to certify a level of sanitation and cleanliness that a big hotel chain can. So that's something I think we haven't seen it yet, but that's also part of screening at airports. Everybody knows it's coming. I remember when I was younger, no, we could never have security to get on every flight at every airport in the world. Maybe I'm the only one old enough. Rod probably remembers. So, but it happened. And now people are saying, oh, that's impossible. A health screening at every airport in the world? Do you know how long that will take? Do you know how expensive that will be? Do you know how much that will kill travel? No, but I think it will happen because the virus is a new weapon, right? And got to get used to this. Yeah.
One of the questions that I see from the listeners is on this same topic, Giancarlo. The question is, should the OTAs make clear which accommodation are COVID-19 free? In other words, which accommodations, which hotels have done the work to demonstrate that they have the health and safety of their customers in mind? I think this is also a great opportunity for Italian hoteliers to take control of their own destiny. Don't wait for Booking.com and Expedia and others to come along with some sort of rubber stamp where they send in an inspector and they look at your hotel and they give you a star rating. You in Italy should work with your government to produce your own system so that you are in control of that and they have to take the data from you. Don't leave that to, to Google or Booking.com or Expedia or Ctrip. Have control of that yourselves.
It's already happening, Rod. It's already happening. We have received this week all the hotels a note from the government, which is, and from the OMS, which is saying to us what we have to do in order of safety in phase 2. Then there will be another one probably for phase 3, which is the one in which we will have to live with the virus still around, but to live. It's a lot of things to do. Some of them I have to say are a bit scary, but as Philip was saying, I mean, after September 11, the world of traveling has changed anyway, with more security things to do. So probably this one is gonna affect the way we do business in our organization.
One thing I wanted to say is with short-term rentals, everybody knows the story about many cities like Venice, like Barcelona, they're all over the world, were curtailing short-term rentals and Airbnb so that to remove the congestion, all the municipal arguments about sufficient housing longer term for residents can't afford to live. So I think there'll be a huge correction factor here. Obviously, a lot of people that I noticed, one of the questions, that own apartments and flats will finally start to take long-term rentals, so that should ease the housing situation a little differently. And I think when that changes, a lot of these debates will maybe start to get resolved. I'll just give you one example. I was involved with a business in France, and there is one district, arrondissement, that has no hotels, and it's beautiful. And the Airbnb position was, isn't it fabulous that tourists can have an opportunity to stay in this very authentic neighborhood because there's no hotels? Isn't that great? And the neighborhood association said, time out, excuse me, there's a reason we live here, and that's because there's no hotels. If we wanted to have hotels, we would have authorized the zoning. And I think when the economy slows down, a lot of these debates will have more parity. I think the different voices will be heard more now, and maybe some more decisions will finally be made with everybody's interest. That's a prediction.
That's good to know. One last question that I have. Then, sorry, Giovanna, I'll leave you the word after this. We're going to have a very big social impact. Another difference between us and Airbnb is that people who are renting through Airbnb, they have the possibility to change it and to do long-time rentals. While a hotel, they have employees, they have people, and airlines, they have people, and cruises, they have people. So they don't have this possibility to change. Are we going, you think, to have a big social problem with unemployment? Because tourism is big all over the world. Only in Italy is the 30% of the GDP of our country. So are we going to have really a social problem in the US, for example, or in Asia? Who wants to answer?
You need an economist on this call, not not travel people. I suspect in Italy it will be difficult with 30% of your GDP coming from tourism. How can you avoid problems? In Australia, we have a strong domestic tourism market, and many operators will be okay because the domestic market, they will travel, and the government will promote that domestic travel. They'll say, stay in Australia this year, go to Sydney, go to Perth, etc. But you have a problem on a different scale in Italy. I think everybody feels very sorry for you right now.
Yeah, Rod, is not 13, is not 30, is 13, 1-3 of GDP.
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah, otherwise will be, so it's terrible, but not so terrible. And we have also another special guest. It's Alessandra Priante, is the Regional Director Europe of UNWTO. There is watching, so it's commenting. I show the comments, so if you want to, okay, but it's region exists in all countries of Europe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common expression, a disaster recovery plan, but I like what Rod said. You know,
yeah.
I'd like the details of there's a lot of talk right now and big stuff and spending money and recovery and bailout and promotion. You need to have a plan at your business. What are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow? And I think there's not enough of that going on right now. That's all the focus I'm working on. So a macro global disaster recovery plan is great, but I don't think a plan is the right word for that. I would use a different word. Business planning is a very granular daily thing right now. And we need to figure out what are we going to do day by day, week by week, how we're going to do it, what it's going to cost, and how we're going to do things better and differently, you know? And of course, there's going to be a lot of fallout. Yeah.
Ron or Philip, I would like to have a comment from you on this. In Italy, when a big problem occurs like this one, we usually say an expression that sounds like we are all on the same boat, same ship. I think for the tourism, is this right? Do you agree? My perception is that we are not on the same ship. We are on the same storm, under the same storm, but the boats are different. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Why do you think that?
Because the virus will affect and is affecting us differently. We are so many, in many ways, we are so different one to each other that it's not only a matter of a common disaster that we are facing, but it's also a matter of financial, as you said, different kind of government support, different situation all around the world. So probably the storm is the same for everybody, but the boat in which we are, it's not the same. This is my opinion. I don't know. I would like to hear from you, which is your opinion here.
So you're asking about Italy as a boat? Sorry, Rod. Is that the question? When you say we?
We say we, yes, globally, different countries, but even in one country, different situation, travel agencies, hotels, big hotel, small hotel, apartment. We are all in a different boat.
Sorry, Rod, you're going to say something.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Giovanna, you are completely 100% right. There are companies who are continuing to do well here in Australia. For example, here in Melbourne, there are hotels that are full right now. They're full because the government has got people in there doing quarantine, and the government is paying the rack rate for those hotel rooms. So there's a crazy example of, you know, certain hotels doing well. There are going to be tour operators who, as soon as the restrictions are lifted, will start to do well again. There are going to be small hotels that will start to do well again. There are going to be countries and regions that will bounce back very quickly. Unfortunately, I think if those guys are at this end of the scale, I think Italy as a country, unfortunately, is at the other end of the scale because of the scale of the problem that you've encountered. But I don't want to answer your question only with negatives. I think we have to always focus on positives and opportunities. And one of the interesting things, when a problem is so big, often the solutions need to be small. One of the things that I would do if I was a hotelier right now in Italy, or a restaurant or a tour operator, is I would be sitting down with the people in my area. I mean, hyper local. I mean, Trastevere, for example, in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
I think that all of the tourism operators, and by that I mean shops, hotels, restaurants, tour operators, etc., should get together and try to produce something, an app or a website or something that is the Bible for that area. This is something that travel journalists will write about, that will show up well in the search rankings, and that will give you a chance to get bookings directly and to acquire customers. Because that's really the game here. It's the game is, how do you get somebody to book directly at your hotel? How do you get somebody to make a booking at your restaurant or take your tour? And, you know, they go out onto the web to do that research, or they read a newspaper, they need to find you there. So you need to find some ways of doing that. And I think all of the solutions that we have today are big global solutions like Booking.com and Expedia, etc. I think you need to go to the other end of the scale. You can't compete against those guys. So you need to do something on a very, very localized basis. And that doesn't need to be too expensive or too hard to accomplish.
Yeah, I think we lost Philip.
Yeah, it's trying to reconnect. I think it's I mean, we can continue. We have a lot of questions, and you can find the private. Okay, Philip is there.
He's back.
Yeah.
Here it is. Oh, it's in the middle of a storm. And anyway.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And I mean, let me show you another question from Giancarlo. Is a question from Tiziana.
Yeah, I'm reading it. I mean, it's going to be interesting what we have to do in the very beginning, because as I read all the instruction that was sent by the OMS, and I was a bit worried, because tourism, it's embracing clients, it's socializing, it's having people, it's having confusion and people having a bath in the swimming pool, and we don't know when this is all coming back. So we will have to reschedule the whole thing we do business. I've seen those directions, and some of them are really unsocial, even in phase 2. So, I mean, how could you think to go in a restaurant? They will take your temperature. Maybe we get all used to this, but how you feel about getting to a restaurant where they see your temperature, then you have to sit 1 meter far from each other, and not in front from each other, but only by side by each other. And then if you have a fever, they are calling the ambulance and things like that. It's going to be tough at the very beginning. Maybe we will get used to it, and we will have to get used, because we have to be ready to follow all this direction. Maybe technology will help us. We were discussing yesterday, Mirko, that probably technology will help us in do things in which people will have a little less interaction. It's
and I'm sure we will get used, and I'm pretty sure that we will get used to it. Like after 11/19, when we start traveling a different way, and everybody get used to much stronger security in the airport. I think is a new normal after this situation, and we will get used to social distance, to sanification, and to more rigid standard for that, and at least for a while.
how can Italy just survive without kissing?
Yeah, you about
hugging.
talking near and I mean, can you imagine my fantastic overlooking bar, the interior without people having been so distant? That is not going to work. I have another question for Philip, which it's keeping in my mind. So I know he's a big expert. You are a big expert about Asia, China, and C-trip especially. I was there in October during their anniversary, their 20th anniversary, I think. And Jen Sun, the CEO, said in 5 years we're gonna be the stronger OTA and player out in the world. My impression is that is gonna happen in 1 year, maybe because I think the way that they were doing business after that, it's much faster than all the others. It's like China. It's moving faster. But is that only an impression, or you think they are really doing something like that?
You know, a lot of people use the phrase C-trip as a surrogate for China. You know,
Yeah.
C-trip success is a lot about James and Jane and the tens of thousands of people that run that business. There have been a lot of online travel businesses in China that have failed and have been acquired and closed down. So I try to give them more credit for who they are. Another thing people don't realize is that the group, you know, it's Bookings Holdings, Expedia Group, and C-trip is not called C-trip anymore, it's trip.com. They've amassed quite a brand portfolio around the world. Skyscanner, and they own 50% of Make My Trip in India, and many smaller businesses and tour operators in the United States. So, and Booking Holdings has a significant minority position in trip.com. So it might be that global footprint that answers your question more than just the Chinese OTA.
Do you think we could stay for another few minutes? I know, Rod, it's very late for you, but we may answer a few questions. You have the wine, all right. so
We can choose the 3 questions, and I mean 5 more minutes. That's fine for everybody.
Fine for us.
So Giancarlo, probably something about airlines.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah. What do you think about what will happen with airlines? Because airlines are really in a very difficult situation. I think government will have to take steps and investing in all of them, especially here in Europe. I don't know what you're going to do in the States, but here in Europe, I mean, we already saved Alitalia, of course, a few times, and now we have saved it another times. But there are real chance that it's going to be a real disaster for airlines.
Yeah, they have a fundamentally difficult challenge in that.
But as you said, governments are not going to let the major carriers falter. It's just too much dependency.
I think
for sure. Maybe some of the LCCs might, or the smaller carriers. The other thing is cash. You know, I told the story is I went to cancel a very expensive business trip because the flight was canceled. So I canceled a canceled trip and I got charged a fee, so there's a lot of these things that have to get sorted out. But the flip side is if you took everyone's advice and did all the refunds, there wouldn't be enough cash in the world to do that. And you can see, I won't get into the credit card holdback situation and the insurance company and underwriter situation, but right now there's not enough cash to do everything that needs to be done. So I think we need, or at least some people need to be smart enough to realize that there's got to be some balance here. But for the most part, the airlines aren't going anywhere. But they are hurting badly.
Rod.
Yeah, I think the airlines have a fundamentally difficult problem to solve in that, particularly in economy class, but really in business class as well, people sit very close together.
Yeah.
And in fact, airlines like that. They like to cram as many sardines into the can as they can. So are they going to, in the first year, are they going to say, well, everybody gets a spare seat beside them? It really doesn't help. It just means somebody is, 60 centimeters away instead of 10 centimeters away. It doesn't really make much difference. So I think the economics of air travel, the IATA and the WHO and other people are going to have to do a lot of work to figure out how we can get international airlines flying and bringing Americans and Australians and Chinese people to Italy. That's a major challenge. But I want to come back to some of the other questions that I've seen here and just come back to a theme that I've made a couple of times, which is people are saying everything's going to be different and people are going to travel differently. I think the difference is there's going to be less people traveling. And the ones that are traveling are they're those early adopters, those risk-averse people, people who are prepared to take some chances. But I don't see how we can fundamentally change the way people travel. Maybe more people will take the train. Okay, but that's not like, it doesn't really matter to a hotelier whether somebody comes from the airport or the train station. It's not a fundamental change to the way people travel. I don't see the sort of fundamental changes that people are talking about. I just see less travel. I think that's the issue we have to cope with.
It is, exactly. I don't know if, do you have other questions? I think Philip is experiencing some trouble with the connection. I see him freezed.
He's freezed over there, yes.
But I have a comment that I think it's very relevant from Massimiliano Ventimiglia, and related to what we were talking before. So OTAs are not the place of the hurt. Plaza Lucchesi is. The courtesy and attention, respect and protection for the travel experience of Giancarlo and many other hotel managers find their place in the hearts of people. Sure, OTAs have muscles, but maybe this is the time for people to reestablish the sense of things and deflate those muscles made of steroids with the euros. Yeah, I think it's clear. Very good, Max.
Well, yes, I agree with your points there.
Very good.
That's a good way to I think to make the end of the webinar, Mirko. I will leave it here because what Massimiliano said. Thank you, Massimiliano. I mean, it's not only the Plaza Lucchesi, but many hoteliers around the world are doing really a big job, and they have been extraordinary in this period where the OTAs were not able to answer any all the clients, and we did, like Giovanna said. Philip.
So it's 1 hour and 10 minutes. If you want to close with I mean, whatever you want, guys. It's
Rod has finished the wine, so we have to close. Yeah, exactly.
But I have the rest of the bottle still here.
That's good.
Philip.
Giancarlo and Mirko, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to your colleagues in Italy. At this time of year, I'm beginning to think about my trip to Italy. So this year I'm exchanging my trip to Italy for this webinar and talking to 1,000 Italians. I very much enjoy the opportunity, and I hope to see you.
Maybe we can involve you another time when the lockdown is finished, just to talk again with Italian travel ecosystem. Yeah, Giovanna is enjoying the flag. Thank you.
We can invite Rod to try maybe.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. We have a conference at the end of the year, 3rd of December in Milan, and I mean, we really hope we don't want to cancel, and we really want to keep that appointment scheduled and fixed in our agenda until the very last day. Giancarlo, if you want to finish.
Philip is not back.
I have
so,
to say a thing at the very end. Yeah.
One thing at the very end. Okay. Yeah. So thank you to all the participants. We were a lot of people, and thank you for this first international, let's say, webinar. We will keeping on talking to the tourism, the Italian tourism, and be back here. We're going to be here back on Thursday, Mirko.
Back on Thursdays, but I have also, yeah, absolutely, yes, like every Thursday, but I have, I mean, it's a little early, but I want to say something today, because we are organizing for the end of the month a very challenging appointment. We want to organize a 24-hour online hackathon for the entire travel industry. Will be 1st and 2nd of May, and is an iconic date, is a symbolic date, is I mean, when everybody starts travel again, is the spring break, Italian spring break, 25 of April and 1st of May, and we want to involve up to 1,000 people to think how to need to be done to restart again. We are this is a real preview. We didn't announce to any other place, and we will launch in the next days. And we have strong partners for organizing that, and we want to involve. You don't listen. You don't listen to me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. And we'll extend our invitation to all of you. So if you want to be with us during this online appointment, giving a help for all the participants will be great. We'll extend also to Philip as well. And I think it's an opportunity to think how to reborn after this situation. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you to you. Rod. Stay safe.
Stay safe and finish the one.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.